This is my breakfast. And this oatmeal with milk. So, let's see how we can do this. Oh gosh. This is something that I'm doing because it's a duty. Because yesterday I was trying to think how this got started. How did I start making these funny videos? Or funny or not so funny, whatever you think. Funny as in funny strange, maybe. I got started making these. You know, now I really can't remember exactly what happened. But the day after I came back to Fort Wayne, after having left Fort Wayne for good, I think that was on the 22nd or 23rd of May, and maybe on the 23rd or 24th, some 1 or 2 days later, I came back. And something was different. Something had really changed. Like, so much stress just sort of dropped off of my system. So, I don't know. Because consciousness is constantly changing, constantly moving, constantly moving on. So, unless I record this process, it's really hard for me to follow right now. It's remaining in surface consciousness still quite a bit of the time, most of the time. But as I recall, when I call on the mind, the memory, to give me the information, it's telling me that the day after I came back, it was nighttime, sometime in the evening, maybe 9, 10 o'clock. Brian came home and I started a monologue. And this monologue was funny. And it was really funny. And he was laughing like I've never heard him laugh before. I just started reading from some New Age magazine and I was kind of ripping on them, you know, making fun. So, and it was fun. It was funny. And really, the stuff that was coming out was funny. And this is something that's happened to this person many times in the past, that when my system gravitates towards the self, I say funny stuff and people laugh. But really funny stuff that I don't plan to say, that just kind of comes out. Comes from somewhere. Like one time, I'll just, recall here, just tell you about it. And you had to be there to get it to what was really going on. Somebody, Scott, Siddhartha, his name is now Siddhartha Scott, was talking to Pooja. Pooja is the person who introduced me to this movement and this group and this master, Swamiji. And Scott used to be an astrologer. He used to do astrology, I guess. Perhaps he still does. And he was looking at Pooja's horoscope and he said something about the constellation of Saturn and Jupiter. And in that moment, I said something about Laurel and Hardy. Now, if you know anything about Saturn and Jupiter as an astrologer, then you get the joke right away. But in that moment, I wasn't thinking about I wasn't thinking about the attributes of Jupiter, the fullness, the riches, big, as in fat. Like in German, Laurel and Hardy, they call him Dick and Dove. Dick means fat, and Dove means stupid. Okay, Dick and Dove. So, and Saturn, the thin, gaunt, kind of half-starved. So I wasn't thinking about that when I said this about Laurel and Hardy, and then just popped out. And then Scott looked at me and he said something about, that there's this aspect of this personality of Gloria, that was my name at the time, standing in front of me. He was... Anyway, so you see my point. My point is that it comes from somewhere, and it's funny to the people who are standing there. Now, if you don't know anything about astrology is not going to be funny to you, but to Scott it was funny. Of course, I don't remember if he laughed. I don't think he did. Did I say something about these people being very serious? Anyway, so something came out that was funny. Now, really, just before I left India, Swamiji told me to tell a joke to somebody. Now, that's weird that somebody says, no, you tell this joke. And from the very beginning of my life, all I ever wanted was to tell something funny and have somebody laugh. So, that night when I came home, and Brian was standing there, or sitting, or whatever, and I opened up this so-called spiritual magazine and just started ripping it apart, and he was laughing like anything, because he gets the joke, because he's a very sattvic person. Very sattvic. Also highly rajasic, but very, very sattvic. I'm not going to analyze, the sattva and rajas and tamas. This is all jnana. And right now, my system is, I'm in tamas. I'm really kind of stupid at the moment. In fact, today, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing this as my duty, to try and bring up sattva in my system. And not, you see, there's a conflict there, right there. Because to try and do something, to have the intention of doing something that cancels it, that cancels the sattvic energy. I'm just doing it as a duty. Am I? I think, I don't know. This is another thing, Tamas is ignorance, ooh, the veil, clouding. Okay, so I don't know what's going on, but basically, yesterday I didn't do anything. I didn't do any recording, and today I said to myself, I'm documenting this process, I have to document. So I don't know what motivated me to do this, but I'm doing it. And it's going to bring up sattva in my system. Because when I begin to make things conscious, then that is invoking sattva. So, something I wanted to say a couple days ago. The three gunas. Tamas, the power behind dissolution, ignorance. Error, sleep, and sloth. Rajas, activity, greed, activity, ambition. Okay, because I'm in tamas right now, I can't think of anything else. Sattva is the energy that's moving upwards. Okay? Rajas, the sustaining energy. Straight line. Sattva, upwards. The energy going towards spirit, absolute, Brahman, knowledge, happiness, wisdom, beauty. Okay? What was I going to say? Here we go again. Tamasic. Okay, so, I was saying these funny things and kind of ripping on this magazine, that spiritual thing. And there was one article in there that said something about advice for transformation. And this is the God's truth. I said to Brian in that moment, now, if there's one thing I know, you cannot advise anyone into a state of transformation. And he started to laugh, and then he said, yes, and I think you should advise them that. And then he laughed and laughed and laughed. He was so happy. So, that was cool, to make somebody happy, to make somebody laugh, to help them to see the humor of a situation.